Vitaly friends, I am Vitaly. Port's publication of texts of telephone messages marked to the President of the Russian Federation Yuri Ushakov wires, and a special prefix of the President of the United States Steve Witkoff, special delivery of the President of the Russian Federation Kirill Dmitriev. Maybe give up the sensation of Tilka on Percy look. Although to the fact that those Razumevs bring what was contagious and confidential splitting by Russian and officials. She is a special simpleton of the American president. Buckets stating all the so-called American agricultural plan for Ukraine. Richly with trimmed chairs, they threw the Russian text submitted to the American side, and Tilky fragmentary journalist Vida Gardio. She after all fails the linguistic analysis of the text. I demonstrated another richly tied speech from Russian to English, and Nicola did not look like that. Yet they were firm the very cob of the English move. A special representative of the President from Steve Vitkoff received in the state to the Russian regime, to the President of Russia Putin. Also formally led by Nicola, not in journalist yet respecting Putin, still Russian military wickedness. And it is obvious that here Steve Vitkoff's torment on business was flowing. But the fact that a longtime friend of American President Donald Trump will also see Putin's mind, and Trump himself. And for the most refined Trump, the bottles were on the same level with the dignified American president. With this rank, we are bashing what we knew and Ranish. So, the so-called American peace plan is a Russian benefit specifically targeted by Dmitriev and Ushakov. In order to praise sanctions against Russian naphtha companies Rosneft and Lukoil. And which is not just to pursue interests from the Russian side. For Raspovidaya Ushakov, I tore up the visit to the United States of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and paint Donald Trump to the propositions of Russian President Putin. Everything is like a rotten joke. The arguments are sometimes democratic of Ukraine. An amateur comes to the Lord in these Ukrainians, another Shvidka pretends to be toys in the hands of Spritny. And pre-illuminated Chekists, diplomats, to listen to any Chekists. As for the one-time phone calls, Ushakov looks like a professional. Let's say, without greedy problems, that Russia is to Trump and his peacemaking. After all, it is the venue of the Russian Arab Summit. And bullshit, the leaders of the Arab Ukrainians, to Moscow orient on Trump, and already everyone is singing on Putin. According to the Rask of Russian diplomacy, Ushakov absolutely calmly gives an under-illuminated vith, as a gesture of goodwill from the Kremlin's side. And such episodes at the workshop of the Razumevs, and the torture to eye of their heirs, and their publication can be simple. The president from the states Donald Trump received, simply without turning off the wagon, for a scandalous exhalation. And the Kola journalists tested him, who's disrespecting Steve Witkoff for NATO to Moscow, having turned Tilka into a normal duel. Maya studied Russia. In fact, Trump, I'm not aware of the outflows behind his words. Believe me, there is nothing cut out of reality, and Trump has often seen journalists say nothing cut out of reality. To protect your old friend simply by the fact that there really is nothing careless in close contacts. the President of Russia is marked with his special image. And I'm not so strong to think about my adoration of the Russian side is engaged in amateur activities. Not administrations like the Donald Trump administration. Vitkoff has a reading mind, not that Trump was numb. The polyps do not have a bag with Russian President Putin. Russian-Ukrainian wines are up to those good bags and economical in exchange for prominent ones between the received states and the Russian Federation. And the mischief from Donald Trump will not fall out of the fragmentation of the agrarian plan by the American country. Brave fate, and Trump's son-in-law will fry Kushner and the Kremlin. And in order for Polypshina and the business fate to become known, it is necessary to help the Russians take the right tone with the American president, and it is really necessary that Ukraine's temple potential of the Russian Federation is more economical than the reserve of a terrorist Ukraine. But their tomahawks will help them. We in the White House may not lobby. I adore not just completing the Russian-Ukrainian wine, with a pleasant Russian interest when the topic is completed. And the overgrown tonsuring can also talk about the extortion of 2 groups from the presidential administration, with those received in the state. I am at that. Yak is guilty and a serious Skoda respecting Ukraine in order to complete the guilt. And I respect Russia as an aggressor for its aggressive ideas. And with such a rank, spraying Ukraine, in that I will complete the blame for Russia by May. Tilka of those who talk about the conflict with 2 forget to tell us one important speech. I am an obvious pro-Russian grouping in the power administration of the very dignified President of the United States, Donald Trump, and not the Sith at their deeds, sound low instruments in the hands of the Lord of the Oval Office. And you don't pass. This means deceiving and talking about the real sympathies and priorities of the President with those received in the state. Diakuyu. Invite on the topic channel, subscribe to it, subscribe to my social on the Patreon channel. It helps to develop these resources. The sponsorship function of YouTube itself.